Another edition of Official Word Sports. I'm Vince. I'm here with my co-host Stevie D. And Stevie D, we're actually getting started a little early today. Everything's a little discombobulated, right? We're recording on a different day than we normally do. We're going a little earlier. I think we're going a little earlier because you're an old man and you need to get to bed a little early. You know, you had the Denny's dinner a little early. So what's going on over there?
I had that Grand Slam breakfast, and it put me to sleep. What's going on over here? Rain in the KC Metro has been unbelievable. We're underwater. I'm gonna bring out the canoe.
We just get started. Terry's there. Hey, Terry. So you need a canoe?
Yeah, I need a canoe. I'm floating.
I hear you. So, Stevie D, in the Kansas City area, there's a lot of noise. And yes, Terry, we will talk about our beloved Buffalo Bills Mafia all the time, for sure. But in the Kansas City area, there's some stories that are brewing over there. We had a former co-host that was on the show, big-time Chiefs fan, I think big-time Broncos fan now. But there was a lot that was going on, and all of a sudden, finally, the leader comes to the podium and says, I have to be better. Talk about Patrick Mahomes. I have to be better. Yes, you do, Patrick. Yes, you do. But I don't. So we were going back and forth. I don't put it all on the shoulders of Mahomes. I really don't. I put it on the shoulders of Andy Reid. I put it on the shoulders of the front office of the Kansas City Chiefs as to some of the struggles that they have right now. They wanted to laud how they brought out this new offensive line, and they were going to be ready to go because we have this offensive line. But everybody knows that you can't have an offensive line on day one that's going to gel, right? And sometimes it doesn't even after 16 or 17 weeks, right? You need to see how these guys are going to be able to work with each other, and it's not working right now.
Well, you have two guys that didn't play last year, right? And then you draft a new center, you bring in the free agent Thuney, you trade for Brown. It's a total overhaul. It's all to your point, right? They never play with each other. Pass protections, run blocking, all of that, getting on the same page, understanding your quarterback. All these linemen got to understand the quarterback, where he likes to roll out, how he likes to move, how he likes to step up, whatever the case may be. And it's not all working out. You mentioned Andy Reid. I think there's a big thing with Andy Reid there. And I think that his offense that he's run on the Patrick Mahomes for several years, it's worked. And now there's a playbook out there, right? That playbook's out there. Okay, let me play too deep, right? And I'm not going to let you beat me deep, and you're going to have to beat me underneath. And now it's like, okay, Andy, what are you going to do now to combat that? Because you've been exposed in that fashion. And the defense, let's face it, Spag's defense is not playing well at all. I mean, it's an awful defensive unit. So they got a lot of problems, and they're sitting at 3-4. And in some of these groups that I'm reading, the Chiefs are going to run the table and go 13-4. No. And other Chief fans are coming in and saying, "Are you watching the same team I'm watching?" Like, there's major holes in this team, and they got to get it fixed, because I don't think a 1 seed is in their future. I think they are 2 and 3 games behind. I think the teams that are ahead of them are good teams like Buffalo, that it's going to be hard for the Kansas City Chiefs to make up 3 games on the Buffalo Bills. I mean, let's be honest. Now,
Buffalo doesn't even have the number 1 seed.
I know they don't have the number 1 seed, but I'm not a huge look. Cincinnati does. If I'm not
your number 1 seed.
Right? But the reality is, as Cincinnati goes on, I think they're playing good football right now. I don't see them as a 1. I mean, in reality, I don't see the Ravens as a 1. But I see Buffalo as a 1. And now Kansas City coming in anywhere from 2 to 4, or if not, maybe not even a division winner. I'm joking. I really think they'll win that division. But at the end of the day, you look at that, and then you say, well, now you got to go on the road. You got your first game at home, and then the rest of it's on the road. I just don't know. I think they're a playoff team.
Winning the West. I don't see them winning the West.
Well, I think the Chiefs can figure it out. I think Andy Reid, I'm one of those folks that say, you got to prove me you got to prove that somebody's going to knock off. Somebody has to knock off the Kansas City Chiefs for me to take them away. So for me, look, the Raiders are playing good football. As soon as John Gruden leaves, they're unstoppable. I mean, they're a different football team without John Gruden, right?
Yeah, but Stevie, we're not talking about beating the Chiefs by a decision, right? And in boxing, it's always been the mantra in boxing that if it's a championship fight, you have to knock out the champion, right? Yeah. If you go to the scorecards, they're always going to get that bump. I'm not saying that. I'm saying you look at what the Chargers are doing, and you look how they're being led, and you look at the Chiefs. There's something more than just playing a too high safety, right? Obviously, that's the book that's slowing them down offensively, and we understand that. But they don't have the depth. They had the depth last year. They had the depth the year before. And now without having that depth, now you're relying, first of all, the people that they replaced are not playing to the same level as the guys that have been there for 2, 3, 4 years, right? And then you have injuries or you have guys that are being subbed in. And you from an offensive side of the ball, you're relying on Kelsey and Hill. And that's it. You can give me Hardman all you want. You can give me Pringle. Those guys, they are not going to be a game changer. The defenses aren't even worried about those guys. There's your problem. Edwards-Helaire is your problem, right? And you don't have anybody quality behind him, right? You may have Williams that could do something, but you don't really have the quality. They don't have the depth. And, I posed the question, is it the $500 million contract? And the first response was, it's backloaded. I get that. But as a GM, even with a backloaded contract, if I'm going to try to bring in a player, either I'm signing them for a 1-year deal or now I have to try to finagle that money.
If you look at NFL teams, if you look at the Chiefs, but if you look at teams that pay, it comes back around.
It does.
You have Patrick Mahomes. You have Kelsey's contract. You have Tyreek Hill's contract. You have Chris Jones's contract. You have I'm missing one other guy that's got a contract. Joe Thuney, the new guard, making $18 million a year. Right? You just named 5 guys that are money guys.
And your safety,
Tyrone Matthew, the Honey Badger, right?
Yeah.
So 6 guys that you're paying very good money for. Very good money for. We're talking top end of their position type money.
Yep.
Tyreek may be a little bit underpaid compared to other wide receivers in the game, but he's still getting paid, right?
Sure.
And so at some point, that comes into your depth. Because people will come to the Kansas City Chiefs on lower-end contracts, sure. But I think it goes to the overall question about the depth because I don't know where they are, and I haven't looked at their salary cap and their structure with the lower-end roster. But I do think, to your point on the depth, they are lacking some of that important depth that you need. Just when somebody needs to get a breath, where's your depth coming in as those people are getting a breath to kind of toe the line, right? And then all of a sudden those teams are able to take advantage when that guy's on the sideline for 2 or 3 plays as they catch breath. So the Kansas City Chiefs are not the same team. It's not. It's
and
not.
The other thing that we were talking about, just to throw in, and we won't spend all show on this, but when you look at their roster, you start to wonder, did they overperform? And I'm not talking about the Kelseys or the Mahomes. I'm talking about the middle tier guys, right? Give me your 20 through 44. Did those guys overperform over the last year and a half? And now it's starting to come back where, they're not playing at such a high level. And now you see such a steep decline.
Well, success sometimes breeds complacency. I think that's why some teams like to turn over the roster after you win, because some players may have that complacency trait, and so they're not performing at the level that they should be. So that's why you have some turnover. It doesn't necessarily happen with every team, but you can see that happening. Sure. And the other part is actually it just escaped my mind, but I had another point about team chemistry. Right, team chemistry. I had a moment.
I told you about going to bed early and mid-sentence. And so
I'm lacking a little bit of protein today, but in all seriousness, could there be a team chemistry? Look at your offensive line: Orlando Brown, Joe Thuney, the rookie center, and stuff. So maybe there's some chemistry issues there. Maybe there's some clubhouse tension that we don't know about as fans of the team because it doesn't really get out, but it's still there, behind the scenes. So you just wonder about some of that, and that's disrupting their play. But right now they're 3-4, and that was an ugly loss to the Tennessee Titans. That was an ugly loss. There was nothing redeeming about that game, right? I mean, I know Mahomes has to play better, and look, he had 2 fumbles, 1 lost, and I think another 2 interceptions. He leads the league in turnovers. Stop and think about that.
Yeah, for
right?
Sure.
We're not talking about a 1 or 2 game scenario. He leads the league in turnovers. He's tied with Zach Wilson with the most interceptions in the league.
Oh, hey, James.
Oh.
Welcome to the show. He does.
Right.
But all right, so Stevie D, we talked about, who was going to keep that number 1 seed. Right now, sitting in that driver's seat, Cincinnati Bengals. It's not smoke and mirrors, that's for sure. But I got to tell you what is so funny is that during training camp, right, during preseason, all you're hearing is Jamar Chase can't catch the ball. Jamar Chase with another drop. He dropped 10 balls here. He dropped 50 balls there, right? That's all they said. They said it was the stripe on the ball, right? Because in college, you got a stripe. And so now he's seeing the ball.
I didn't hear that one.
Because there's no stripe, he can't catch the ball. Well, let me tell you, Jamar Chase is the real deal. Now, I killed, and you did too.
Oh, I did. Absolutely.
I killed them for taking Jamar Chase instead of taking Penny Sewell.
Yes.
Right? Penny Sewell sitting up in Detroit, but you had Burrow coming off of the injury. But right now, that duo, right, that college duo that is transformed into the pros is really making us have egg on our face, right? Sure. That offensive line that we thought was going to be poor at best is holding up, right? Mixon is running crazy. Burrow's getting time in the pocket. And they're able to run any kind of offense they want out there, and deservedly so, right? Yeah, I'm ride or die Bills Mafia. But I got to give it up to these guys. They're stringing it together. They're not playing pushover teams, right? They've had some easy ones, but they're not playing pushover teams. And they're doing what they have to do. I don't think it's going to last.
No, but it's a fun story to talk about through 7 weeks, right? The first 7 games that they've played. What you want to think about the Baltimore Ravens, that was a very good win on the road. The Baltimore Ravens are playing good football this year. So that was a really good win by the Bengals on the road in the division. A lot riding there, right? Division lead, number 1 seed. Maybe the pressure gets to a young quarterback. No, I mean, they came out balling and they just dominated that game. I mean, another game that was just dominated by – you had 2 good football teams and 1 team didn't show. I'm not knocking – the Bengals win, right? But that was a butt whipping. They have a lot of weapons in Cincinnati. You mentioned Mixon, Chase, right? You got Higgins, and that tight end. I don't know how to pronounce his last name. I always think of Hujmanzada because it's right because it kind of like goes in there. We're just missing a part of the last name. He had a huge game out of tight end for them there. He's slinging it all over the field, Joe Burrow. And Zach Taylor. Can we give some props to Zach Taylor? Because a couple years ago, people were saying, Zach Taylor, I don't know if he's ready. But you know what? Good for him through the first 7 weeks. He's 5-2.
Let me tell you this, and you can appreciate this. I know I did. So I work with a couple people who are diehard Bengals fans, right? And so a lot of time, misery loves company, right? Oh, yeah. They're ride or die, too. They are definitely ride or die. But
wait a minute, you've met a Cincinnati Bengal fan?
I work with 2 of them. Ride or die. No doubt. So, we talk about how we're hoping our teams get over the hump, but they're like, but you guys have a better shot. And, because like I know as a fan where we haven't had that sustained success.
Yeah, you're waiting for the crash.
You're always waiting for that floor to just fall out.
Yep.
So I come walking in, knock on the door. I don't want to talk about it. I I know exactly what he was saying, right? Because you don't want to jinx it. Everything is going exactly how you want it to go. And you just kind of want to just let it keep going and just build momentum. I did that last year, right? I really did that last year. I don't want to say anything, right? We're taking it one game at a time, just staying focused with the game that's in front of us. Like we have any sense that we can control the outcome. We think we do.
Absolutely.
Okay, so absolutely we do. So so I got it. But I want to give props to the Bengals because it's a new day, right? Yeah. So we'll see. We'll see.
There was a great pickup by Hendricks. I think his last name is Hendrickson on the line from the Saints. And he's got 6 sacks in 7 games, so a really good pickup thing, right? Carl Lawson left for the Jets, got hurt. They bring in Hendrickson from the Saints, and that side of the line is doing really well. So good for Zach Taylor and the Cincinnati Bengals, and we'll see where it goes. But
so CB, let's stay in that same division. You talked about the Ravens. We just gave some love and talked about the Bengals. We have to talk about the Cleveland Browns because we talked on our last show how the Browns were like destined for
the Browns being the Browns. The Browns being the Browns.
Because you looked at the roster and you said, you have your entire backfield out. Jarvis Landry was just coming back, but you weren't sure there. Odell had injuries. Up and down the entire roster, you had guys that were questionable, out, IR, right? The roster's a mess, a complete and utter mess. And so then they came out and
Baker. Don't forget about Baker's injury.
Well, when I said the whole backfield, quarterback and 2 running backs.
Okay.
That's your whole backfield. And they came out and they actually surprised me. I'm not going to lie. They surprised me. They had a running game. You had this kid. I think he went to USF, the running back that they had in there. But I'm going to tell you, this kid was running the ball like crazy, right?
Yeah.
I mean, every time he hit the line, next thing you know, he's out for another 10 yards. I'm like, where's this guy going? So, they relied heavily on the running game, and they rotated all the backs there, right? Guys that were normally 4th on the depth chart, maybe just a pass catching back, getting some good run, good experience, right? Maybe, forecasting what will happen, not to Chubb, but to Kareem Hunt, right? Because if we still want to keep a 2-person backfield, you got these guys that are running hard. I was really impressed with what they did, how they did it, but I don't think it's sustainable. And Baker with the shoulder is still going to be out for quite a few games.
Yeah, I thought the crowd was the energy that the Browns needed to win that football game. I thought the energy that the Browns fans brought to that game, being on prime time, when you think of the Cleveland Browns for 20 years, you don't think of primetime football games, right? So now the franchise has kind of turned around, and Samnavsky, however you pronounce his last name, it's got that organization moving in the right direction. But I thought the crowd showed up, and I thought the team fed off of that energy. And I mean, Jarvis Landry right off the bat catching balls, and being Jarvis Landry up in your face, and getting the crowd going and doing his thing that he does to get the crowd going and getting his teammates all fired up. It's too bad he got hurt, later in the game. But that energy that the Browns fans brought, I really thought was, people say the 12th man, right? In Seattle, I think they say that in Seattle. I think the Cleveland Browns fans showed up in that game and really supported that team to bring them up, because it's easily the fans could have been down with all the injuries, and they weren't, and they were rowdy, and good for the Browns.
But that's Cleveland.
They're ride or die out there, no doubt.
Now
you think about everything that's happened to that franchise. I'm not taking anything away from the Bengals because they've had their, but Bengals never had that franchise ripped away, right? And then
so another guy at work, Cleveland Browns fan, right? Yeah,
you're making this stuff up.
The state of Ohio, right? It's just all over the place. But I was giving him a hard time as well. But in as much as I don't like Cleveland, I respected that effort. Now you played the Broncos, right? let's be fair. You played the Broncos.
The Broncos still have a decent defense. Decent.
Yeah.
I didn't say it was a top 5.
Yeah, decent. I'll give you decent. But you played the Broncos, but you did well. I mean, you played with
the Broncos with nobody's
second and third teamers.
Right.
And yes, it was Dearness Johnson was the kid from USF. The kid, I mean, just showed out 146 yards. I mean, and Stevie D, every time he hit the hole, I'm telling you, you turned around and he's going for, another 5-6 yards. It was incredible to watch him play. It's going to be interesting to see if they can sustain this, right? Because you have adrenaline games, right?
That was it. That was
exactly.
It at home in prime time. Yes.
That's exactly it. You have adrenaline games, and guys are, they're coming together. Stefanski, has them all in the locker room. Everybody's jumping up and down, banging helmets, ready to go. You go out there, you have a performance of a lifetime. You get ready for the next week, and it goes right down, right? And you lay an egg, and you kind of wonder, how did we just do that last week, and now you get this performance? I have no faith in Case Keenum.
Did you?
I really don't.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna go back almost 30 years. 30 years ago, what team was the best team in the AFC?
The Buffalo Bills.
Okay. The Jets just lost Dennis Byrd to a broken neck. Jets could not beat Buffalo for the life of them. Could not beat them. You guys were so dominant. Jets were in the toilet. We were just not a good football team. And you guys were dominating the Jets probably from 89, all the way through your Thurman Thomas years there. And the week after, I mean, I know I was totally devastated from
until 2025.
Well, relax. And so that next game, the Jets beat Buffalo. And I remember because Brian Washington, the safety, had a pick in the end zone to really seal that win. And it was such an emotional thing because your team leader goes out with a broken neck. He's lying in a hospital bed, can't move a leg, and that adrenaline game came up and you won. And when you use that word adrenaline game,
wait a minute, you're not telling the whole story. If you watch the 31 for 31 or the 20 for 20, it will they will have where it documents where the Buffalo Bills gathered together. They looked at the roster, they looked at the standings, and they said, let's do this. They have let's do it for the Gipper. Let's do this for Dennis.
Let me tell you something. Not late November. You're not doing that late November. You may have done that in the beginning of September.
We said, let's do this for Dennis. Is everybody okay? They looked at the rest of the schedule. Not a problem. It well documented.
Why you gotta bust on my story for?
If you look at 31 for 31, you'll see it.
Never heard of it.
Not 30 for 30. Don't go there because you'll never find it. It's on the 31 for 31. It's there. But to your point, yes.
So that's what, when you said adrenaline game, that's what I thought about, because the Jets, not that Cleveland didn't have a chance of beating.
We got Dana Brown in the house. Hey, Dana.
Right. I just, had to go there. Anyway. All right. What's next?
You feel better?
No.
No. Well, since you brought up the Jets, let's talk about your Jets. There's not a lot of good to say about the Jets. There is not a lot of good to say.
I don't know if you really see, but for Thursday Night Football, I do have the Packers and Cardinals jerseys going.
Is this what you call the segue? Is this the thing?
I'm trying to get away from the problems that we got in Florham Park.
What do you got? What's happening? I mean,
nothing.
You traded. Let me just jump into it. You traded for Joe Flacco.
Super Bowl MVP. What? We traded for Super Bowl MVP.
That move right there just told me that you're done with the season. It really did. In all fairness,
I don't think Joe Flacco's going to play much.
But it's not even that. It's not even that. And we talked offline. I've talked to some others about this. Right here's the problem. You got Josh Johnson. That is your emergency quarterback, right? You said that you were going to go with Wilson, Mike White, and Josh Johnson. So, okay, so Zach Wilson gets hurt. He's out 4 weeks, 6 weeks maybe?
2 to 4.
Okay, 2 to 4. So you mean because of a 2 to 4 week stretch, you're going to go out and bring in a guy that quit on you the last time he was on the field? Literally quit. In all fairness, he didn't do a Buffalo Bills type quit, right? He quit at halftime, but in essence, he should have, right? If you looked at his play, body language, face, everything else. And so you're going to bring him back to the locker room and not go with the guys that you already have there, the guys that have been there since training camp, preseason, and now through the first 7 weeks of the season. And you're going to bring this guy in here who is a scrub at best. And yes, Joe Flacco, if you're watching the podcast, you are a scrub at best. Fell into a Super Bowl ring.
Well, we don't know the status of Josh Johnson and where he's at in grasping an offense. I don't know, right? And when you're not in the building, it's hard to say. I'm not disagreeing with you, but there could be circumstances that we don't know that the reason why the Jets went and got Joe Flacco. I know he worked with LaFleur with the Ravens and in his brief stint with the Broncos, who he hurt his neck. I don't even know how much he played for the Broncos. So whatever. He's got a little bit of experience with that offense. So maybe there's something there that they don't like out of Josh Johnson. I don't know. And maybe I'm being too kind to the Jets because it's a homer thing, right? You don't like to talk bad about your team, but honestly, our problems go well beyond Joe Flacco. To be honest, and I like Robert Saleh. I do. I like the energy he brings. But again, I think some of his inexperience as a rookie coach is coming through on certain things. I think that LaFleur is going unchecked. From an offensive coordinator standpoint, there's no, and I think it was, one of the things that I liked about Mike White that I wish they would do with Zach Wilson and help coach Zach is Mike White, when he got in the game, he threw some outs, he had some balls downfield, but when nothing was there, quickly when he scanned the field, he went to the running back out in the front or a tight end for 7 yards, 8 yards. When there was time to move out of the pocket to gain the first down with his legs, he did that, got it on third down, got to see another set of 3 plays, right? So those are things that I wish Zach Wilson, when he goes back on tape and says, you know what, man, look how quick Mike White. And this wasn't a blowout at the time. Everybody thinks this was a blowout at the time. It was not a blowout at that point when Mike White came in the game.
But Stevie D, who is telling Mike White to do that?
I don't know.
You do. It's the coach.
I don't know. Well, he may say, look, when he's in the helmet, XY fly Z3, right? Oh, by the way, if nobody's there, check it down. Right? It could be there. It could be on the sidelines.
It didn't happen just while he's on the field. It happened when, he's sitting on the sidelines and he's talking to him. All right, Mike, you're going in. Here's what I want you to do, right? We're still going to call the same playbook, but I want you to start looking for your checkdowns, right?
Did you watch it? Did you watch the game?
No.
Okay. So what I saw from Mike White, okay, it's not exactly the way you're making it sound, in my view. Okay. When quarterbacks are in there and they're inexperienced and they're looking for the check down, they're going to the check down very quickly.
Sure.
He was not doing that. So what I liked is that he was scanning the field for the open receiver downfield with the clock in his head that says, okay, my offensive line, I got 2.5 seconds, 3 seconds. I got to dump it. I got to get to my next.
But I'm not saying, Stevie D, that they told him just go to become captain checkdown. I'm not saying that. But I think that they told him if you feel it, then you go to the checkdown. We still want you to go to the primaries. We're leaving the playbook as is. This is our playbook, right? And this is what I want you to do. I think that is a message that they told him. They had to have told him that. They had to. If they didn't, they were derelict as being coaches.
And if they're not doing that with Zach Wilson, that's a problem.
That's where I'm going. That's exactly where I'm going. And if Zach isn't listening to that, that's a problem.
Like I look at Mac Jones and what New England's doing there. right? He's in a 70% completion percentage. If you look at Mac Jones, right, their running game has moments where it's running really well, right? But he takes those short passes, and that builds up for that 25-yard pass down the middle. And so really what Josh McDaniels is doing with that young quarterback is really, really, really smart. And what the Jets are doing, saying, hey, we're going to let you run this offense like you've been a 5-year veteran. Yep. And I think it's showing with Zach Wilson that, yeah, a couple of weeks ago against the Titans, he made some plays and he wowed the crowd, right? And you can see what he can do, what's possible. But at the end of the day, he's missing a lot of little things. If you look at some of the short throws that he makes, he gets flustered and he's throwing it in the dirt. That's a problem. On 3rd and 4, you have an opportunity to take those 5 yards, easy 5 yards, get the first down, either get out of bounds or take the slide, live to see another 3 plays. He's looking 35 yards downfield when the first down marker is literally right there. And those things that he's missing, I'm hoping while he's on the sideline the next 2 to 4 weeks, he sees what he's missing and what he's doing wrong. And maybe Mike White can help him indirectly because now when they're in the quarterback room, man, yeah, I needed to do that, right? I need to do that. Mike White, you did that good. When they looked in the film room this week, there were some things that Mike White didn't do well. This is the first time he's ever been on the football field in a game. And I thought Mike White in the beginning did well. And then later in the game, Bill Belichick kind of figured things out, and you saw interceptions later on out of Mike White.
This may be a blessing in disguise. To your point, that now they have some tape. They go in the film room, right? And maybe Zach now is able to see and Mike is able to say that. But you know who else will be able to see it? Is your offensive coordinator, right? Who is able to see, if I look at what happened in week 4 or week 5, and I look at what happened here in week 7, right? You have 2 different quarterbacks. We didn't do right by Zach, right? We focused all of our attention on Mike because we felt, it's a downgrade in the skill level.
Sure.
It's a downgrade in the Madden rating of this quarterback, right? And so we kind of babied him along, and he was successful, right? If we take that same approach, and I'm not saying that you got to keep him, and just coddle Zach Wilson, but if you apply that same theory, that same logic, when Zach comes back, to your point of some of the other quarterbacks that have been successful, then all of a sudden maybe it starts to kind of shine the light. If it doesn't, Stevie D, then
you're gonna ruin the kid.
Yeah, you got it.
You're gonna ruin the kid, and then everybody's gonna say, "Oh man, he's a failure." Is he a failure, or the people teaching him are the failure, and that ruined that kid's career? Like we say that a lot. It's the system that you come in when you're drafted, right? You can be out of this league really quick in this league, right? And I look at Zach and say, there's nothing wrong with doing that because Zach has the arm talent that when it does open up downfield, he can sling it down there. That's not a problem. He can get it there. We've seen some of the throws he can make, but let him be successful and tell him to calm it down a little bit. Let's get a little bit more accurate on the shorter throws. Let's concentrate on that. And then the deep ball will come eventually. And I honestly do believe, without a doubt, the Jets organization is hurting Zach Wilson. And I go back to what Sean Barber said, months ago. This kid should not be throwing more than 15 to 17 times a game. If you're doing that, you're hurting this kid.
Yeah.
And you expose a young quarterback for the flaws if you're doing it. And throwing 35 times a game, it's not good for a rookie quarterback. Not what the Jets are doing. And it's, you can see it. It's
Justin Herbert threw for 35 times plus.
Yeah. But you know what? Everybody develops differently, right? I mean, look, your guy, Josh Wilson,
you have a 12-year-old under center. All right. Let's be fair, right? He's got a long way to go.
Let me tell you something. I am so jealous because I wish when he's my age, he's going to look like he's 29. Right?
Right.
So I'm just jealous, okay, that he can have those baby looks like that. I mean, that's ridiculous. But
so the other side of the ball is not going so well either.
Well, we started off really good, and now the injury bug. I mean, by the time we got to almost the fourth quarter, we were out of linebackers. They were all hurt.
Mosley was gone. Even before the game started, Mosley was gone.
Yeah.
And they attacked the middle of that defense nonstop. It reminded me of Super Bowl 28. is what it reminded me of. Super Bowl 28 is when in the second half, the start of the second half, when Thurman fumbled after the first possession and Dallas gave the ball to Emmett like 8 times.
Oh,
and he
yeah, sure.
ran the same play over and over and over again, and nobody stopped it. And that reminded me exactly what happened in your game. They just kept running the ball, and I think it was Harris was getting like 7 yards. He was past the second level. And so now the question is, yeah, your linebackers may be hurt, but what about your front four?
They were invisible.
Completely.
They were invisible. Absolutely invisible. And every Jet fan has been, saying that. But before I get into the front four that underperformed, there were nowhere to be found to bring pressure. It was unbelievable that we couldn't get any pressure. For all the Jet fans that think that C.J. Mosley is overrated and the Jets should have moved on from him and he's overpaid, you just saw yet again another example of what C.J. Mosley's capable of, because he is a dominant force in that middle. He is that leader on that defense. And when he's not in the game, you go all day long. We can't stop anything. And when he's in the games, the defense runs totally different. I think he holds players accountable on the field. He's that coach on the field. He's everything. He's worth every penny the Jets are paying him, because Lord knows we can't do anything when he's not on the field.
Well, we know this to be true, right? We played you, what was it, last year's game, first game?
Yeah.
He was healthy, and, we were struggling against you. It was a very close game. Mosley gets hurt. All of a sudden, Singletary breaks it.
Couldn't stop it.
Game changer. Yeah. Game changer.
Yeah.
So
that was really the last game he played up until this year, because he was out the remainder of the year that year, and then in the COVID year, he opted out.
Right,
but
2 years ago.
When he's been on the field, he's been everywhere in the football field. And then, he didn't play, and then during the game, it was like quarter by quarter. Oh, another linebacker. I think 4 or 5 linebackers went out by the end of the third quarter, and we were out of linebackers. So
what did they go out with, though?
Concussions, knee injuries. Well,
I guess the reason I'm asking, what's the degree of the injury, right? Is it a hamstring?
They were out. No, I couldn't tell you the degree of the injury offhand, but they didn't come back.
If they're all out this week, and I don't know if you saw the injury report.
Mosley is still questionable. Quincy Williams is concussion protocol. Cashman is always hurt. I can't even if he plays, he's going to get hurt by the second quarter anyway, because you want to talk about Glass. We'll get into Glass in a little bit here. He's another guy that got all the talent, all the talent to be a backup linebacker. He can't stay healthy, because every time we need him, he gets hurt.
At the end of the day, can you stop Joe Burrow,
no.
Joe Mixon?
No.
I don't even need to go on.
No.
Jamar Chase? No. Not going to happen.
Well, it's interesting. Our young secondary hasn't been awful.
That's been the shining spot for you.
Right. It hasn't been awful. When you have your oldest corner is like 24, 25 years old, that's pretty young in the secondary, right? I mean, that is young. Sometimes people forget that, right? You're going to take your beating this year. So you hope to learn and grow, and it's going to make you that much better in your next year. I mean, it's a long, painful process. Really, what I'm looking forward to, believe it or not, I want to see Elijah Moore in the slot. Robert, Mike, I know you're listening. I know you're listening. Crowder, I like him, but Elijah Moore is not to be on the outside. Okay, that's for Denzel Mims. That's Mims' spot. Okay, so let's bring Elijah Moore. Let's bring him into the slot where he's meant to be, and let's see what we can do. Enough with this Elijah Moore.
Mims can't run routes. Why are we going to stick him out there?
No, he can't run routes. He can't do motion. I don't need you to motion. I don't need you to motion. Don't need it. Run your routes, because Mims, I think Mims is in the doghouse with that. And but again, if you moved Elijah Moore into the slot, and let's see what this kid can do, because I tell you, Elijah Moore had a phenomenal jet sweep. I don't even know if I'd call it a jet sweep the way it was designed. It's more of like a reverse. And he went to the corner, he went to the outside, and everybody thought the defensive lineman was going to kill him. And then all of a sudden, right before he made the turn, the Jets turned on, and that defensive lineman was nowhere to be found. And it was really a slick play, and he scored the touchdown. But we got to get Elijah Moore into the game. We got to get him into the slot. We got to get him in spots in the open and let him use his speed and his moves. I mean, he is a slick. He's got some moves on him for a wide receiver. He can dig some people out. So, Robert, that's my plea to you. Is let's get more to the slot and let's see what happens this week. And I do like Michael Carter, the Michael Carter from North Carolina. I do like him because what I like about a good young running back, every time he falls down, he's falling forward.
Yeah, you've said
so when you fall and you're getting that extra yard every time, and I really appreciate that effort out of Michael Carter week in and week out.
So Stevie D,
yeah.
I gave you time. We've talked about the Bengals. We've talked about Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. We've gone down the list. And I know Terry is over there just pulling her hair out because she's like, where is the talk about my beloved Buffalo Bills? Well, Bills Mafia, it's time. It's time. We're coming off a bye. And that's exactly what was happening. We got to rest. We got to stretch. Unfortunately for Dawson Knox, he's going to be out a little bit. You know, it was Terry waiting for so long for this. But yeah, so it was National Tight End Day, right? Every tight end got to go out there and do their thing, got a chance to, say, hey, it's National Tight End Day. And not only were we on a bye, but Dawson Knox had to have surgery, right?
Oh, so I thought he was hurt. How long is he out for?
They're thinking about 4 weeks. So he's recovering, he's healing, and part of that, this is sometimes where the bye week can really be something that you just want to get it over with, right? Because now you have the trade deadline mixed with the bye week, and so now all the rumors are out there, right? And of course, the major rumor that was out there was Tua, Watson, right? Whether it was to the Dolphins, the Panthers, the Broncos, right? The Broncos said, we're not in it. Teddy Bridgewater said, oh, thank goodness, right? But, then you had Buffalo, and they're talking about tight ends, right? And as much as I was all in favor of, exploring the tight end trade prior to the season, Dawson Knox and that tight end U, again, I'm going to talk about tight end U that they had in the offseason, where you had the Kittles, and you had the Kelseys, and you had the Ebrams and the Evan Ingrams and all the top tight ends, right? Dawson Knox in the middle of that. They all met up, right? And I think it was a great situation, especially for the younger tight ends like a Dawson Knox, to listen to the guys that have achieved success in the league, not only running routes and not only how to catch the blocking, but also how to finesse your way, right? They're teaching them how to face those linebackers, right? How to face those safeties, how to really settle down in those zones. That's where Kelsey makes his money, right? Yeah. And so you saw Dawson Knox really start to take off this year. Unfortunately, had the injury. Threw a touchdown pass with a broken hand. That's always good, right? Threw it like a shot put, but it got there. But I was a little disappointed, that you had these rumors, and I don't know who's spreading the rumors, right? I'm not sure if it's Albert Breer, it's Stevie D, right? Jason LaConfora. I don't know who's spreading these rumors, right? But they were all out there. But I was glad that at least to now nothing has happened. I don't think we need to go down that path of a tight end. And plus, if you do, then what are you going to do? There's already a struggle between Sanders and Diggs and Beasley and Davis and Knox, and then you have your running backs, and then you have your running quarterback. Everybody can't touch the ball, right? And I want to keep, when Knox is healthy, I want to keep him as engaged in the game as possible. Not, oh, coach, should I run out, right? You stay there and you stay going. So, the bye week sometimes, yes, it's a time to heal up injuries. And, the other thing that hurt with this bye, Stevie D, is coming on the heels of a loss, right? Don't like that because I don't want to chew on it, right? I want to get back to work and I want to be ready to go.
Who do you have out of the bye?
I'm sorry?
Who do you have out of the bye?
Well, now that's a different story. So the good thing coming out of the bye is we face Tua Tagovailoa.
Oh.
Now, in all fairness,
it's a spread 30 points.
I don't know what the spread is. I really don't. But in all fairness, Tua is okay. He's not a world beater. I know you're not a fan. He's okay. He's connecting with Waddle. But I do remember what happened the first time we played.
Playing, or is he hurt?
No, he's playing. And so week 2, we played him. Tua was done for, 4 weeks? I'm not saying the same thing's going to happen second play of the game, but I feel as though this is a good way to get back off the bye. And then after that game, I think we go back on the bye again. This is the first time that a team has had 2 bye weeks in almost consecutive weeks. So, we'll play our scrimmage game against the Jets. and Joe Flacco maybe for that game.
Vince, you better hope and pray.
You better hope and pray. That'll be
I don't have hope. There is zero expectations. You better hope and pray. That's
not worried about it. I'm not worried about it because I'm going to tell you. I'll tell you this right now, which won't happen. But if we did suffer an L, that's going to be the worst week of practice that team ever had.
It's going to be the worst podcast of your life. Okay, of your life.
That means I would have to be on the podcast. I'll let you ride that alone.
Yeah, you chicken. You chicken.
I'll let you ride that alone. Or we'll start out with the podcast and then I'll. And then we'll I have no problem.
I don't like you on these controls. You got too much power with those controls over there.
So yeah, I wish you would say something. I dare you say something.
I don't like that you have the mute button.
Just completely, and then and let's move on, right? And we just move on. So we'll see how that happens. I was though, CBD, looking at the Bill schedule, and you don't want to jinx and all that, but just in all fairness, you look at the schedule and you have the Bills with the Dolphins, right? Then you got the Jets and the Jags. I'll tell you that's nice to get everything going. Then you have the Colts and the Saints, right? That's Carson Wentz time.
Wow. JJ Wentz, come on. JJ Wentz.
Oh,
is he going to be able to survive by then?
Well, that's a good question. That's a very good question. And I'm not really, the Saints made a trade for Mark Ingram this week.
Yeah.
And
Randy Cooks was not happy.
Oh, really?
Not
Didn't
happy.
hear that one. But I'm surprised that they let him go in the first place. But it makes sense to bring him back now. But it may be too late, right? And when I look at the Saints, it feels as though they have the governor on Jameis, right? Jameis is only operating out of this area, right?
Yeah.
It's not the Jameis that we know, right?
There was a game there with Jameis that I think made Sean Payton a little bit nervous, and I think he brought him in a little bit. I think he gave him some freedoms, and then he brought him in a little bit, and then I think he's going to ease him back into it.
See, I think Jameis is similar to Favre. You just got to let him go.
He's definitely similar to Favre in that way of the interceptions, right?
You get the good versus the bad. I mean, he threw for 5,000 yards, had 30-plus touchdowns. Yes, he had 30-plus interceptions, but, you stay in his ear to kind of tame down the interceptions, but you got to let him go.
Yeah, but Sean is not used to those turnovers, right? The Saints as a whole are not used to turning the ball over that much. If Jameis were to turn it over, right? So it's a shock to the system to
then that's not your guy, because I think Jameis is holding them back. I think you got to let him go. And where I was going with this for the Bills is that you look at the schedule, you really have 5 games, Stevie D, coming out of this bye that leads up to the matchup against the Buccaneers. And that matchup against the Buccaneers is
really great. It's going to be great.
It's the last test before the playoffs. Now,
it's going to be great. You know why? My fantasy league, baby. I'm going to have Brady and Allen just wimping the ball. I'm hoping for 200 points out of those guys. I hope they go 6 touchdowns each. And I'm just going to reap those fantasy points that week. Oh,
yeah, the Bills' defense is a little stronger than that. But
we'll
we'll see. We'll see what happens with Tampa secondary. That's going to be a big thing. But this may be the last time that we see Brady. And I really, really have been asking for this for a long time. I know he's your guy. And I get that. But Mo Lewis.
You want him out of retirement? I can call him up.
Mo Lewis sign a one-day contract. That's all I'm asking for. You don't have to do that because I got 3 guys, whether it be Tremaine Edmonds, there he is. Whether it be Tremaine Edmonds, whether it be Matt Milano, whether it be AJ Klein, I got guys. They just need to watch that.
No. You don't have. You think you have guys. My guy did it. No. My guy did it.
Well,
you guys are afraid of the 15-yard penalty. You know what? My guy did it.
This is true. I'll pay the fine. I'm saying it right now on the podcast. I will pay the fine. If you
I would so like to see that.
You've got to complete the full action. You can't pull up. You have got to go from start to finish, and it has to be the same as what Mo Lewis did. If you do everything there, I'll pay the fine. I'll start a GoFundMe page. Please help me pay this fine.
Because it's a hit on Tom Brady, so the fines are going to be tripled.
That's okay. I'll have some other, multiple GoFundMe.
Terry, would you donate? That's
a good question. That's a good question.
Bills Mafia, I want to see the text right now. Would you pay?
Let me tell you, Bills Mafia will have my back. Bills Mafia will have my back because we donate to everything.
But yes, you do. But I'm saying, realistically, what would you donate? Would it be $50? Would it be $100? Would it be $300? I want to know from your Bills Kingdom, your Bills Mafia.
It just takes $1 because we are so big, so large. We are all over the place. And there's Terry. Yes, I would. Thank you, Terry. It just takes $1, right? I could be like the Sally Struthers commercial. Just $1, 17 cents a day. That's all we need.
Oh my God, Sally Struthers! Where do you pull on that name?
I have no idea.
You know what? Now it's all coming back. That commercial, yeah,
right. That's all we need, right? 17 cents a day. Go into your wallet. Be able to do that. Just hit us up on our GoFundMe page, and I'll take care of it for you. So Tremaine, you're good. Right, Milano, you're good. AJ Klein, you're good. I got you. Just you have to complete the act, and I will be.
Wow, you are starting Bounty Gate 2.
Whoa!
Wow, that's what you're starting right now. Bounty Gate 2.0.
Well, hold on. Where did that come from? I never said a bounty. I never said such a thing.
I'll pay the fine. Oh, yeah. That's Bounty Gate 2.0, just a little bit different.
That was because you said something like a cheap shot. By no stretch of the imagination have I ever called for any type of illegal activities or anything that would be deemed a bounty. No, I don't believe that. I believe in fair play. Absolutely.
You're sounding very much like
John Gruden.
No, coming from my neck of the woods when they wanted somebody whacked.
Oh.
we're putting a bounty on them. That's it. We want them done.
I didn't ask for a bounty. I believe in fair play. Oh, wow. What?
Terry, I was just starting to like you, Terry. I was just starting to like you. I really
lasered in on you, Stevie D. Lasered in on you. So, Stevie D, we're out of the bye week. We have the Dolphins. We'll see what happens. Dolphins defense is nothing. Nothing to write home about. Again, I'm not going to disrespect the team, but they're not the defense from last year, that's for sure. Brian Flores seems to be losing it, right? If you look at his expressions, his demeanor on the sidelines, it's not the same Brian Flores. He's frustrated.
Yeah, I said he was on the hot seat, but he may be on the hot seat for something different. And I want to clarify what I meant when I say he's on the hot seat. I don't think he's on the hot seat necessarily from bad coaching. I think he's on the hot seat because I think there's a disconnect within the organization with Brian Flores, because it seemed like everything was going in a really good direction with the Dolphins organization, right? They made some trades. They got a lot of draft capital back. And it looked like they were really building youth with those picks. Now, all of a sudden, there's just something off. And I just think there's a disconnect, whether it's him and the owner, him and the GM owner against Brian Flores. Something is off in that organization, and I don't know what it is. And that's why I say he's on the hot seat, because I still think he's a very good young coach in this league that knows what he wants. I just think he wants something, and maybe the front office is not getting him, and he's getting frustrated. But that's why I say, is he on the hot seat? Because we don't know those private conversations.
We know for sure that the owner and Flores are at odds over the whole Tua Deshaun Watson trade, right? And so that's not playing well. So to your point, there is definitely a disconnect in there. I almost think that the owner needs to stay out of the Deshaun Watson, because it's not good for the locker room either, right? Just let it happen, let it play. I don't think Deshaun's going to be traded. Because I think that there's still too much unknown as to any penalties. And Roger Goodell has been spineless up until this point.
Oh, yes. Right. And we've talked about these type scenarios before. What I don't understand about the Miami Dolphins, if now the story is coming out that Ross, the owner, won't make the trade unless the legal issues are resolved. This is the dumbest thing to come out into the public, because we all know it's impossible. I think the court hearing is not set until like February, so it's not going to happen before November 2nd. So why are you even talking about Watson publicly? Because it can't happen. So all you're doing is putting a name of a quarterback out to distract the quarterback that's trying to win you football games. So now he's got to think over his shoulder. I'm not a Tua guy, but now he's got to keep thinking, it's just going to be Watson. If you don't think that's going to bother a young player, he could come out and say all the right things. It's going to bother a young player. It's going to bother him. It's disrupting the team, the chemistry, the coach, the whole nine. And it trickles down to the team.
100%.
It's just awful. It's just absolutely. And what you're saying, it's the reason why Stephen Ross needs to stay away from it. Keep your thoughts privately. Don't let it affect the team, and it's letting it affect the team. And I think that's where there's tension there within the owner and the coach. And in all honesty, Brian Flores' contract is very cheap. If Ross wanted to make that change, it's not like he's paying a high-priced coach millions of dollars. So Brian's the one that's going to lose out there. But I think Brian Flores is a talented coach, and he'll land somewhere.
Yeah, for sure.
On his feet and be in a better situation than Ross. It's like, honestly, the Jets ownership is awful. The Johnsons are awful. Woody and Chris are awful. Ross in Miami is awful. He's an awful owner. Just like the guy in the Texans, McNair, is an awful owner. And I found out something about the Jets this week that made me sick about the Jets owner. Yeah. So, I want to talk about it. So the Jets owners, Johnson & Johnson, right? Well, I'm sure you've seen on TV the talcum powder lawsuit that was awarded. They opened up a shell company for the lawsuits. Good luck getting paid out on that, because that is now bankrupt. And I think that's just a crappy move by Johnson & Johnson to put out a crappy product. And the NFL should be investigating the New York Jets owners for that move. That's an unethical move. I'm sorry. That's unethical, and you shouldn't want that, because if they're doing unethical stuff there, what are they doing within the NFL that's unethical? And they need to get rid of it.
You see how Stevie D put this at the end of the podcast instead of early on when we do I need to get this off my chest.
I'm getting it off my chest right now.
Now he's going all in. I did not know that.
Do you remember the old age thing?
Oh,
it just kind of kicked in right now when we were talking about a bad owner and Stephen Ross. It just came back in. I had a moment that came back, but you can see that I'm out with it right now, and I think it's wrong, and they should hold them accountable. I think Snyder's got to go, Johnson's got to go, Ross has got to go, and McNair's got to go. There's 4 owners right off the bat that I can say that have to go out of the league. And now it's coming out more about the Raiders with the Rams move and their dealings to leave St. Louis to go to LA. This is going to get really ugly for the Shield. It's going to get really ugly really quick. I mean, Gruden came out and says, wait until it all comes out, Gruden says. So now he's really got, we all know he's a scumbag, right? But I'm really curious how this is all going to come out.
Oh, yeah.
I'm hoping the Senate comes out and says, I want to see it all. I want full disclosure, everything. And
they're so losing antitrust. All right. Mark our words right here. 10/28/2021 at 8:54 p.m. The NFL will lose any and all antitrust privileges that they have, which will be very interesting to the television broadcast, right? It'll be very interesting to Sunday Ticket and to all the other things that they have, how it's going to be able to be dispersed. And, you're going to have your Fox Sports, whatever, that's going to be able to show whatever game. I'm telling you, it's all going down. And it's all falling on Rodgers' head. And but it is falling on Rodgers' head, but it is these owners, this new generation of owners, very egotistical, very self-serving, and they are the greed, and they are going to be the downfall of the product. But I just wanted to go back to where you had the segment of I want to get this off my chest and just let our viewers and our audio listeners know that segment was brought to you by Depends. Depends, you're in your Jerry.
I had my moment?
You did. So all right, Stevie D. That's going to wrap this up. We always, go over everything. So to do the rundown, if you want to listen to the audio version of the podcast and not see Stevie D's expression when I told him that this was brought to you by Depends, you could go to your favorite podcasting platform and you just look for Official Word Sports. You can find us out there. If you want to continue to watch or rewatch the stream that we have here, you can go to YouTube. Obviously, you can rewatch it on Facebook. And then if you want to comment, send us a note. If there's a topic you want to talk about, you can tweet at us at Real OWSports. You can go to us at Instagram, OWSports, and obviously from our Facebook page. Love to hear from you. Want to communicate with our fans that are out there. We love having Terry on there. We had James and Dana was on there. So good to see the folks that are starting to jump on, send some notes, show some love. We appreciate that all. But Stevie D, I think that's going to wrap it up. I think we're good.
All right.
So for my co-host Stevie D, I'm Vince. We'll talk to you soon.